Good morning and welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Hamilton. We welcome you here in the sanctuary and those who are joining us online. We ask that you turn off your cell phones during the worship service, with one exception. Please feel free to use your phone and to access our hearing assistance system, especially if you have T-coil. My name is Michelle Corbet. My pronouns are she and her, and I am this morning's worship leader. As we bid farewell to January and welcome February, our themes, practicing resistance and embodying resilience, are timely given what's happening in our nation, across the globe, and of course, closer to home, south of the border. Resistance and resilience, distinct yet complementary concepts of stability, are interconnected, two sides of the same coin, if you will. Sustained resistance can lead to resilience, and true resilience is resistance. Together, they are a life force of strength and longevity. Each week, we are blessed with inspiring music, including original works of our musicians. Today, our music ministry includes guest musician Doug Doolittle and our music director, Rachel Derry. Our guest speakers today are Rick Hill and Daniel Coleman. Together, they will be presenting At the Wood's Edge, the healing power of wampum. Historian Rick Hill is a citizen of the Beaver Clan of Tuscarora Nation and is member of the Six Nations of the Grand River Territory. Rick is an artist, a writer, and curator whose career spans leadership, teaching, and advisory roles within major Indigenous cultural and educational institutions across North America. Currently, he is the coordinator for the Joint Stewardship Board at Six Nations to develop an environmental interpretation center and is the manager of the Six Nations Virtual Archives Project. Rick holds an honorary appointment to the Order of Canada and his leadership in Indigenous art, history, and culture for his efforts to recover and restore Haudenosaunee artifacts and way of living. Daniel Coleman is an award-winning writer and educator and recently retired professor based in the traditional territories of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe in what is called Hamilton. He's taught in the Department of English and Cultural Studies at McMaster University and studies Canadian literature, indigeneity, whiteness, the cultural politics of reading, and wampum, the form of literacy, ceremony, communications, law that was invented by the people who inhabited the Great Lakes, St. Lawrence, Hudson River watershed before Europeans arrived on the Turtle Island. Following the service, Daniel and Rick will be available to chat in the lobby, and their books listed on the back of your printed order of service will be for sale and signing. So welcome Doug and Rick and Daniel. Whomever you are, whomever you love, and whatever life circumstances brought you to church this morning, you are one of us. You belong, and you are welcome in this house of worship. Welcome. These are the following words are from Reverend Michelle Collins. Welcome all who are restless for a world renewed. We come carried by ancestors who refused the silence of despair and dared to sing a new song. Their courage whispers through us still. Today we resist by showing up together. We resist by keeping faith with what is not yet. Our gathering is itself an act of sacred descent, calling us to rise and unite as co-creators of a freer tomorrow. I invite Rick Douglas Chin to share our land acknowledgement.
Good morning. I honor my colleague in the Faculty of Law at the University of Windsor, Dr. Sylvia McAdam, Sesewahum of the Nahiawa Cree Nation, and co-founder of Idle No More, from whose teachings I borrowed some of this land acknowledgement. Our Unitarian Universalist Church is built on the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississauga people. This territory is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes, which the Anishinaabe called the freshwater seas, the 5 freshwater seas. Ne ano nibimang gichigamin. The root of the word territory is terra, or land. As settlers, some of us forcibly transported here in chains, we must reconcile ourselves to the truth that these lands were and are cared for still in many places under Indigenous laws, established by the hereditary chiefs and clan mothers. The laws are housed in ceremonies that recognize land, the creator, animals, water, trees, and treaty rights. Nowhere at any time were these rights ever forfeited by Indigenous peoples. What the treaties say and what took place when the colonists arrived are different things. The law of the Creator is not the law of the Bible. When honoring laws, we must follow protocol and procedure. All peoples have their own protocols and processes, and we must learn them if we wish to live in right relation. Truth and reconciliation. It was foretold that the hereditary chief and clan mother laws will come back to Turtle Island. For all of us, respecting these laws is a choice.
Thank you, Rick. Please settle into your seat for this morning's prelude.
Good morning, Sego. Lajin Hawashongets, Mohawk. I do this when I'm using what I determine a genocide word. I am Gayankahaga of 6 Nations, Gayankahaga meaning the Mohawk peoples. I actually thought my name was Doug, not Prelude, but I'm okay with that too. Kind of like the humor in the Indigenous realm is important to us, so. I've been invited here to play my flute for yous. I hope that it will. It's very temperamental, and it's what do I say? Well, temperamental. It'll probably need your help for it to play, because it's going to perform a service for you. So it actually wants something back. So I generally am not a flute player. I made this for my help of another Indigenous person who was just learning his heritage, but he had started making some great flutes. So I ran into him and we created this together, and it holds a huge significance to me. And as I say, I'm not a flute player. I only play what it makes me feel like it wants to play. So it's a lot of pressure, I tell you. So again, you'll have to bear with me because I'm going to see if it will play for you. I'm not sure. If it doesn't, you guys are going to have to help me. So I'm not all alone here. Okay, this is what I need you to do. Just close your eyes for a moment and take a deep breath in and let it out. Take another one in and let it out. One more time, breathe in deep and let it out. And we'll do one more time. That's 4 times for the 4 orders of creation. Take a deep breath in and let it out. And just relax. It seems like it deems you people worthy. So let's see if it continues. Thank you. That's it for now. Well, let's come back.
Thank you, Doug. Our chalice lighting words come from Reverend Elizabeth Nguyen. To be a Unitarian Universalist means we'll never be done with the work of telling the truth about oppression, the work of resisting any laws, policies, or practices that deny anyone their humanity, the work of stubbornly seeking out the spark of the divine in each other, no matter what, the work of creating heaven on earth. To be a Unitarian Universalist also means we're not alone in this work. We're not alone because our promise is to love one another. We're not alone because we have companions on the journey. We grow ourselves into allies, helping one another get free, because none of us is truly free until we are all free. I invite Beverly Horton and Nancy Wilson, members of the Dismantling Barriers team, to come forward to light our chalice and lead us in the chalice unison words.
Please join me in reading some new chalice lighting words that Michelle has chosen for today. My hope is that they'll be projected on the screen. We light this candle in solidarity with Black, Indigenous, and other people of color as we journey towards spiritual wholeness. May we, as a beloved community, work to dismantle racism and all forms of oppression. May we live out our principles so that justice, dignity, and equity for all prevail.
Thank you, Nancy and Beverly. Please rise in body and or spirit as we sing a new hymn. It's titled Green, and it's from a new virtual hymnal, Sing Out Loud.
Sing out love. So the Unitarian Universalists have created, and our own dear Beverly was part of the committee, which created an online hymnal, which we have as a church officially joined, and I will be unfolding as we move along. I'll send some more information about that in our all-church email as the months go on. It's very exciting. All the resources are online, and we get to hear from new composers and new writers, some new original hymns. We've already done quite a few, and this is another one. So Peter Mayer has repurposed a very familiar tune that you may or may not recognize. And this is called Green. So I don't know if anyone know the piece People Look East. This is repurposed with different words and a little bit of a different rhythm, so follow me, it will be just fine. And over the next little while, we'll start singing some new hymns, and eventually you'll all have access to this online hymnal. It's very exciting. So let's sing together Green. When winter's gray is on the sky, rust upon the leaves that lie, red on the last few berries clinging, brown on the branch where the bitter wind's singing, even when white obscures the scene. Still in winter there is green. patiently waiting there unseen. In the winter there is green. Death may raise its voice today, oh, but life will have its say, speaking in lovers and in children, in poets' pens and philosophers' vision. Life is a planet's daring dream, Earth's devotion spoken in green. So keep it in your winter store, Hayes garden round your door. Grant to your heart its hopeful promise, passion a wreath for its blessing upon us. Winter brings browns and grays indeed, but when it comes, remember green.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jenny. I run the kids program here. And so I'm happy to share with you that we have music and munchies happening this evening from 4 to 6:30. I know Karen is here somewhere, so if you have questions, you can ask me or Karen. Did I see her? There you are. Thank you, Karen. So yeah, if you have questions, feel free to ask me or Karen, but it's a wonderful place for families with young kids to come out and hang out and get to know each other, give the kids a time to use our space over there. 4 to 6:30, thank you. Our story today is called Dakota Talks About Treaties. It is written by Kelly Crawford and illustrated by Don Chrétien. Ani Bojo, Dakota Ndijnikas, Nibising Ndo Njiba Nsquakamok Ndida. Hello, my name is Dakota, and I'm from Nipissing First Nation. I live in Sudbury. For my speech, I'm going to talk about my treaty learning adventure. When I first heard the word treaty, I wasn't too sure exactly what that meant. I can remember that every time I heard people talking about treaties, I would also see wampum belts. In fact, my friend Alex Herbert from Docus First Nation made a wampum belt out of bricks. After putting one together on my own, I was excited to see a real wampum belt. Oh, something happened to our pictures. That's all right. We're on page 3, which is, I think, the 4th slide. I got this chance during summer vacation. Can we go to the next slide? My family went on a trip to Niagara Falls to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Treaty of Niagara. There were elders, knowledge keepers, and First Nation leadership sharing knowledge. That's the one, thank you. I learned that 250 years ago, the King of England's representative presented 2,500 First Nations leaders the Treaty of Niagara Covenant Chain. This wampum belt, made of seashells, recognized Native peoples as nations who had rights to the land on which they had lived for thousands of years. Sir William Johnson promised the First Nations chiefs that your people will never be poor so long as the world exists. Wampum belts represented promises that last as long as the sun shines and the rivers flow. In other words, forever. Wampum belts are sacred. They teach us about the promises that were made. Chief Isidore Winda Tegowinini Day reminded everyone that they have a part. It's time to recount, reflect, and renew. Today, we bear witness to a commitment together, the sacred protocol of polishing the chain. I also learned the meaning of a treaty. A treaty is also a promise between two nations. Treaties allowed for people to live on this land peacefully. Treaties explain the rights, responsibilities, and relationships of First Nations and governments. Treaties include payments of goods and/or cash, land, and the promises of schools. Many included the protection of fishing, hunting, and harvester rights. I like to think of it this way. What would you want? After listening to all the elders and knowledge keepers at the anniversary, I learned some important facts about treaties. Did you know? 1, treaties are living agreements. 2, there are 46 treaties in Ontario. 3, almost the entire province of Ontario is treaty land. And 4, treaties are all over the country. Treaties are important today because they never expire. We are expected to honor the treaties forever. At the 250th anniversary of the Treaty of Niagara, there were 3 children, and I was one of them. My hope is that the next celebration will have more children so we can learn more about the importance of treaties because we are all treaty people. Chimigwech, Dakota. So now, are we singing another song? Nope. Okay, I'm gonna invite the kids in kindergarten or younger to come over to the Rainbow Room. And any of the kids who are older, I invite you to stay to learn about wampum belts from our Indigenous elders who have come. So thank you for coming, and thank you for listening to my story. The Rainbow Cup. I always forget this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Our offering words, all voices, are written by Joe Von Rue. In a world, many voices, pardon me, I'll start again. In our world, many voices are silenced. Many truths remain unspoken because the speaker fears rejection, judgment, or worse. Our financial offering today helps sustain this congregation as a place where all our voices can be heard, where the truth can be spoken without fear, where vulnerability is met with compassion. We give in gratitude for this beloved community and with hope for a world where more voices can speak their truth. We will now receive our offering while we enjoy the music of Doug. Thank you. Thanks.
So you want some more punishment, do you? Well, remember, you have to work for it.
Thank you. Thank you. Your gifts and support of our ministries to one another and to the community are appreciated. Thank you. In these moments of meditation, contemplation, or prayer, I invite you to relax, close your eyes if you wish, and breathe deeply. Following our reading, there will be a few moments of silence, followed by music. During music, you are welcome to come forward and light a candle of gratitude, joy, or concern. This morning's reading is inspired by The Resistance of a Dandelion Seed by Reverend Michelle Collins. There is a crack in the world where light finds its way through. Not wide, not welcoming, just enough. The seed arrives on the wind, lands in darkness between stone and stone, and begins its work in secret. Roots press downward through the grit and shadow, seeking moisture in places meant to be barren. They do not ask permission. They do not apologize for their hunger or their being. Slowly, the green crown pushes upward, meeting resistance at every fraction of an inch. The concrete does not yield willingly. It groans. It cracks infinitesimally, but the stem continues. What emerges is not delicate in the way we imagine delicacy. It's yellow and honest, opening its face to the sun despite the hardness all around. Cars pass, feet land nearby. The flower remains, making its small declaration that life persists even when it is told it cannot. That softness breaks what hardness cannot bend. That beauty grows, not in spite of the cold and unrelenting pavement, but directly through it, transforming a barely visible crack into a doorway. When the blossom fades, it does not disappear. It transforms into a constellation of possibilities. Each seed carries the memory of stone splitting, the knowledge that what seems permanent can be challenged and broken through. The wind rustles. The next crack waits. The work continues in 1,000 directions at once, patient and relentless.
Meditate? Perfect.
Thank you.
Perfect. So let's start it off with the 4 deep breaths. Breathe in deep and let it out. Honoring those 4 directions. I hope you can count the 4. It's all going to sound the same, just so you know.
come now to a time in our service when we affirm the ways that we are connected to this life and to each other, and as we live into the truth that what affects one of us affects us all. In the spirit of community care, let us open our hearts to one another and all that we hold sacred. We have two concerns to share. From Pat Dickinson, it's both a joy and a concern. Betty Ripa reports that she has been she's had a bit of bad health, but has returned from hospital where they fixed her up and she's feeling great. Yeah. The next concern is actually from me. It's a personal, obviously personal. A large branch of my family live in Minneapolis. So I know that others have family as well, and friends and neighbors in Minneapolis, St. Paul, throughout Minnesota, and in other states. And I just want us to keep them in our hearts as they resist the state-sanctioned violence and terror that is taking them to the streets in protests, national strikes, and singing vigils and fundraisers for the 9 souls who were murdered, and thousands of other men, women, youth, children, and babies who've been harassed, kidnapped from their homes and their schools and their streets, and illegally detained and deported. I am so inspired by their courage and their deep, deep sense of community care. We know that there are other sorrows among us too tender to share at this time. Know that we are holding you in our community of care. Alongside our struggles and sorrows in our life are the joys that we share. So we mark milestones and blessings and celebrations, and we have a couple. So I understand that it's Reverend Danny Weber's birthday tomorrow. I don't see that they are here today, but keep that in mind. And then there are two, they're joys, but they're also a little bit about announcements. So the Church Book Club is reading Danielle's book, Grandfather of the Treaties, and will be discussing it at their June 15th meeting. Daniel has agreed to join us, and everyone is welcome who has read the book, so stay tuned for more information about that. And we also have, following the service, a new visitor and congregant gathering. The visitor and congregant engagement team invites everyone to help themselves to a beverage and return to the sanctuary, where there'll be a circle of chairs here for you to learn more about each other and the church, and that will be led by, I believe, Nancy Wilson. Yeah, thank you. And our work is never done. It's always humming along in the background. Sometimes it happens in visible ways, and other times it's unnoticed. But all this work is worthy of gratitude and celebration, and I have one gratitude to share. It's also from myself. I had the pleasure of attending this third space cafe on Friday night here, and I'd like to thank Jody Aberdeen, who coordinated the third space cafe. It had a focus on technical support, and I had 2 small projects that he was able to help me with, and so I thank you very much, Jody. And if you'd like a joy or concern or gratitude shared with a larger congregation, you can share that through our website. There's a button on the homepage, or you can write it in the binder that is to my right over between those doors. Sharing the tender moments of our life and witnessing one another is part of building the web of beloved community. May we continue to hold space for this community care and share with courage and vulnerability. Now it's my pleasure to welcome Rick and Daniel to our congregation as they share their presentation on the edge of the forest. Healing Power of Wampum.
Thank you. think I'm more alert than the microphone suggests. It looks like it'll stay here, so thank you. Well, what a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the invitation to join you today. I feel like I'm in a circle of friends. I've had the pleasure of visiting the Unitarian Church here a number of times and appreciate your interest in the kinds of writing that I've been doing over the years. And there's a whole, like a line of friends all around, so thank you for the invitation to be here. I'm Daniel Coleman. Little background on me. I'm the child of a mother who is from Danish farming community in Alberta, and a dad who is from a hardware-owning store on Lake Erie down near Windsor. They met in Ethiopia, where they were working in the 1950s, and I was born and raised there, and came here to Hamilton in 1997 to start a job at McMaster, and did not want to move here. My family was all in Western Canada by that time, and this was all new to me. I knew nobody here, and all I knew was that there were steel factories and a lot of pollution in this region, and I didn't know how much I would come to love this place. And I have to say that one of the things that was such a gift about coming to live here was learning about the Haudenosaunee-based wampum traditions that were invented right in this region and that are so amazing and far-reaching. And that's been kind of life-transforming for me. And maybe I'll pass the microphone to Rick Hill, who I met early on in those years and whose work has been so foundational to my own learning.
Well, thank you, Daniel. Tuscarora, that's an old greeting that says, I hope you still are carrying the great peace. I'm here because Daniel forced me to come here. I can't help it, but I have this natural allergy to churches, given our history. But when you explained it's not quite like that, Rick, let's go and find out. And from what I've seen this morning, I was really glad that I came here and wish I had brought my family. So we're going to share with you some really old ideas, but taking a look at what those old ideas could help today with our thinking. And to begin, we saw you kindle your fire. So we believe that there's a spiritual fire inside of each one of us. And grief and trauma, colonization, death has a tendency to diminish that fire. Sometimes it actually scatters the embers of that fire within your body. So we have a very simple but profound ceremony by which we gather those embers back and rekindle that fire inside of you. I'm just going to give you a synopsis of that. We believe that wampum, made from shell beads that come from the Atlantic Ocean, is sacred, it's powerful, carries the memory, carries the words. So I'm going to share with you the words that we've been taught. Now, normally I would stand when I would do this, but I'm old and the microphone won't let me. So with the first string of wampum, we realize that grief, it's like a cloud of dust. Comes over you, drops down into your eyes, causes your eyes to tear. And when your eyes are tearing, you lose sight of the beauty of the world. So at this moment, I'm going to take this string of wampum, I'm going to reach deep into the forest to find the softest deer skin that I can. And with that skin, I'm going to wipe Daniel's tears from his eye, so that he can recover his vision, to see how beautiful the world is, how beautiful the sun is, and how much we stand in front of him with our love and care. With the second string of wampum, realize too that trauma, that dust of trauma that lands in your ears, it clogs up your hearing, so you can't hear people, even when they have kind words. You almost get angry at people you think that you're all alone. So what I'm going to do with this string of wampum is reach high up into the sky, find the softest eagle feather that I can find, and with this I'm going to clean the dust out of Daniel's ears. It's better than a Q-tip. To restore his hearing, so he'll hear the kindness and the love in my words. We'll hear the joyful sound of kids playing. Sometimes they interrupt humans because humans need to be interrupted by children. And you'll also then hear the song of birds that uplift our spirit. And then with the third string of wampum, that dust of grief, sometimes it settles in your throat and you can't speak. You don't feel like eating. It's beginning to destroy your physical health. So what we do, we reach deep down inside of the earth to the deepest, coldest spring of water. And with that water then, Daniel, you could take a drink. We'll both take one. We wash that dust of trauma that's settled in your throat. So what we've done in this very simple thing is we help to uplift Daniel's mind from the grief that he's been carrying. We help to rekindle that fire inside of him, and rejuvenate his spirit, and then we refresh his body. We used to do this every time our people engaged. From the very first time we met people from Europe till about 1840. And then your government changed its attitude towards us. They said we're no longer going to consider them to be allies, we're going to consider them to be our subjects. So this ceremony stopped. And I believe this is the source of our trouble today, that the government can't see us for who we are. They can't hear us when we speak. They don't speak the truth when they speak to us. And that truth gets stuck in their throat. So I believe we need to reestablish this kind of protocol between ourselves. Use the healing power of the fire, the spiritual power of water to rejuvenate that thing that connects us all together. So this was the beginning of our treaty protocol. We also did this every time we had a treaty meeting. And you got to remember, a treaty is a relationship. It's not just that piece of paper and not even just the wampum belt, but it's the nature of that relationship. So we're going to go over very quickly, what does that look like in terms of a Haudenosaunee context? And Daniel will start.
So I'm going to begin with the Two Row Wampum, which has become quite famous. So you may have heard people speak about the Two Row Wampum before. The story is that when the Dutch first arrived as merchants, really, on the Hudson River system, coming up from what is today New York City up to the city of Albany, where the Mohawk River joins the Hudson. They'd come as traders, and they'd been in their region for a little while. And Haudenosaunee, who met them there, Mohawks on that end of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, wanted to build better relations with them than the trouble they'd had when they had met the French up in the St. Lawrence system. You probably know the story of Champlain joining a raiding party from the Algonquian people up there and using gunfire for the first time against Haudenosaunee people. And so they knew that contact with these new people from across the ocean could be dangerous and could be violent. And so they wanted to establish things on a better footing. And they noticed that the Dutch traveled in a sailing ship, and they said, we travel in canoes. And so you see these two purple rows representing the different ways of traveling on the same river of life. The idea was, how do you share space with these newcomers in a healthy and a good way? Rick was talking about the Edge of the Woods ceremony and the 3 wampum strings, and talking about the need to clear the welter of emotion and the grief or the violence that can be part of those moments of meeting. And so they were trying to establish a good meeting in a peaceful way with a good mind. when you see the white, it's easy to think of that as kind of background to the purple rose. But there are 3 white rows, and they kind of represent the river of life, the whole river, the ecosystem that people were traveling upon. And it's for the purposes of establishing the peace. That's the meaning of the white beads. The peace of the river, the peace and health of the river, to have a good way of life upon it. And they said, we'll be bound together by 3 principles: peace, friendship, and respect. And these, therefore, have 3 white beads in each of the 3 rows. They also said nobody can own the land, and the reason to make this agreement is to preserve the way of life for the faces waiting in the ground about to be born. You think about, well, what does that mean? Well, the faces waiting in the ground about to be born, and they're thinking about the future generations. Seeds of life, the faces of new life that are emerging from earth. Those seeds could be plant seeds. We were talking about the dandelion coming through the cracks. They could be the seeds of animal life. They could be the seeds of human life. It was a ecologically based way of thinking that put the two-row philosophy together. And I think one of the things that can happen when we think of these as treaties, which is a good thing for us to do because they're somber covenant relationships that were established, is we kind of forget the ceremonial function of dealing with confusion that was in the early wampum strings that Rick was talking about. This was to deal with the confusion that people felt, the possible violence, the grief, sometimes the not trusting yourself to be up for building a good relationship. I think we live with a lot of that these days, of not being sure that we even know how to step up to the relationships we find ourselves in. So the two-row has been a pretty powerful way of reminding ourselves of what relationship can look like in our region, invented right here by Haudenosaunee people and then taught to the Europeans as they were coming and agreed upon with Europeans. Part of the other element of the two-row is that they said, you keep records in writing, we keep records in wampum. So do, write it down, keep it your way, that's good, and we'll keep it our way. So we'll keep our culture and belief and law in our sailing vessel, and you will keep your culture and belief and law in your kind of vessel. We need these vessels. They didn't say to the Dutch, you know, forget Dutch language, come to Mohawk Residential School and just learn Mohawk language, you know, never speak your own. No, your culture has some values, some things to bring with it, and we'll keep ours in respect. I'll pass it over to Rick for talking about another wampum related to this one.
Now, these are replicas of the actual wampum belts, and we still have the original version of each of these belts. This one here talks about the very first time we saw the people with pale faces. I believe it relates to 1535 when Jacques Cartier and his people came down to St. Lawrence and landed near Quebec City. When they arrived, they were quite sick, suffering from scurvy. And being the nice, generous people that we were, we said, oh, we have something that's green even in winter, and it's a medicine. And we made them a tea from cedar and from white pine. So the symbol here is, see this skinny diagonal line? That's that scrawny Frenchman who showed up in 1535. The other two, the hardy line, those are the very muscular Mohawks. They said, come here, well, we're going to pick up our younger brother, we're going to feed them this medicine and make them well so that we can live in peace. In retrospect, I wonder what our history would be like if they gave them water hemlock instead, but that's just me.
You can see the concept of the rose laid out as rafters in that sighting of the pale faces wampum, and you can see where the concept of the purple rose got readjusted for the Two Row Wampum. And this is one of the things about wampum traditions, is that these iconographical ways of remembering things spread from one to the next, or influenced, shaped how people formed a new set of relationships at different times. This one is famous too. Pretty much every land acknowledgement I've heard around in the Hamilton region, they talk about the dish with one spoon wampum agreement. This is a replica of the dish with one spoon. You can see, once again, the zone of peace, the ecosystem of peace, the river of life, and you can see the dish formed. It looks not quite round here, but it's hard to do round in wampum beads, so this is geometrically round. And then you can see the story is that Peacemaker, when they were establishing the peace, said, we'll have a delicacy like a beaver tail in the center of the dish, and we'll share that together. The zone of abundance in which we live. People won't be bringing in knives. You'll just use a spoon because a knife can shed blood. And people say that you can see the dish with one spoon that this region was when you stand on the lip of the escarpment and look around at the abundance of Cootes Paradise, Hamilton Harbour, this whole region. So that when the French first arrived in this region, they called the Shenandoah people who were here La Nation Neutre, the neutrals. Why did they call them that? Well, because they had this practice of welcoming people in peace to the abundance that was this region. It's based in a kind of philosophy of nature's abundance. You know, we live in a system where we have kind of what you could call the active production of scarcity. That's a Marxist term. But, you know, the way the capitalist system wants to have privatization and therefore not abundance, but a privatized economy and the production of scarcity so the prices go up, etc. It's the opposite way of thinking about what is a region? Where do we live? Is there enough? How do you share it with the people? This is all based in the dish with one spoon wampum agreement that was made between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe in this region. These things are invented right here. People thought these things through about how do you create a future and a life of peace in this region? How do you give back? You know, when Doug was playing the flute, he was talking about the breath and the breath the flute needs and whether the flute will agree to play. You know, these things are, he gives the flute breath so that it can make its sound, and it gives us back the beauty of music. That's thinking about the abundance of life, the things that we can give and receive rather than just taking. And that's part of the philosophy of the dish with one spoon. How can we give and live with one another in that gift of sharing?
Hold it this way, you hold that. This last belt we're going to talk about is called the covenant chain, the thing by which they link their arms. And it represents when the English defeated the Dutch, they picked up on the two-row responsibility. In that two-row, it says that our vessels, our cultures, are going to be linked by a rope. And then that rope was replaced by an iron chain. When the English came on board, they made this chain that links our people together into a silver chain, so it can be polished, bright, and renewed. So, and there's some disagreement as which figures which, but let's just say this is now the crown, and this is the Haudenosaunee leaders. They hold this chain between them, this chain of friendship. It binds us together. When the king wants our attention, he shakes the chain, reverberates all the way across the Atlantic to what they used to call the Indian office, and they would ask us then to help them. And usually the king wanted us to go knock somebody in the head on his behalf. When we would shake the chain, shake your chain, shake it again, shake it one more time. We always got a busy signal. They never seem to respond too well. But the covenant chain then is a way in which you can recover from tragedy, even war and murder. So I believe our nations may never agree again. We may never be able to get the Confederacy and the Crown to agree to these principles, but we can agree to them. we can use the principles of the Two Row, the dish, and the covenant chain to say, what kind of relationship are we going to have? And look at all of these, they're reciprocal relationships. We're not saying, you got to do things our way. All we're saying is, if you're going to be in our backyard, let's try to perpetuate the peace that was already here. And the way that you do that is through things like this. So recently, a court in Quebec ruled that this covenant chain is still valid to this very day. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. However, when the king came to deliver the speech from the throne, I had a friend who was a speech writing assistant. He tried in the worst way to get the king to reference the covenant chain. But the king cannot say anything here unless the prime minister lets him do it. That's the deal they made. So the prime minister says no. You'll notice that your prime minister will never say the word covenant chain, and yet we're saying, here's the foundation of the longest standing peaceful relationship between the Crown and Indigenous people. Why not only celebrate it, but why not use it? So this is the kind of things I think that the wampum provides for us, is an opportunity, not so much to look back at history and bemoan the fact of the betrayals and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's all part of that. But to say, what can we learn from these things? Just like the dish with one spoon, it talks about sharing. So when I hear your service this morning and you talk about equity, well, what does that really mean? Well, that means that you have to share your wealth with the people who don't have as much wealth. You got to share your food with the people who don't have much food. We have to really work at recovering this, so that the spirit of the Two Rows says, this will live as long as the sun rises in the east, sets in the west, as long as the water flows downhill, and as long as the grass turns green at a certain time of year. And all of that is happening. Okay, I'm not sure about the grass and climate change, but anyway, most of that is still going to happen. That means we have a human-to-human obligation that will last forever. So we appreciate this opportunity to share these ideas with you. It is just a little bit that you're going to find in the books that we have available for this. So I wanted to thank each and every one of you for coming and listening patiently. I noticed nobody fell asleep, so we did pretty good today. So thank you.
Thank you both so very much. And just a reminder that Rick and Daniel will be available in the lobby following the service to continue conversations, sign books. And I understand that these, Daniel, you mentioned they're teaching aids so that we could continue to ask questions about the wampum belts. Okay. Please rise in body and or spirit and join in singing hymn number 1067, Mother Earth, Beloved Garden, from Singing the Journey. So our teal hymnal.
Mother Earth, beloved garden, living treasure underfoot. All our days you ground our being, sage and thistle, grass and root. Earth to heal us, plants to feed us, land to till and tend and plow. With the pendant deep as midnight north, we ask you be here now. Father, air, your inspiration holds together all that lives. As we breathe, our minds see clearly, leading us to love and give. Raging whirlwinds, whispered breezes, violent gale, and gentle cloud. With the blade as sharp as morning east, we ask you be here now. Brother fire, great transformer, share the passion of the sun. In our hearts your warmth revives us, cooks
As February begins, I want to acknowledge that as a nation, we're marking 30 years of Black History Month, honoring Black brilliance across generations, from nation builders to tomorrow's visionaries. And our benediction, chalice extinguishing words are again from Reverend Elizabeth Newitt. Unitarian Universalism is for those who have seen the arc bend towards justice and those who doubt it will ever bend, but know we must organize as if our lives depended on it anyway. Some theologies say that only some people are saved. From those theologies flow a world where people are criminalized for their identities. Our theology says that we are all saved, and salvation is what we strive to build now and for each other. So we resist any laws, policies, or practices that deny anyone's humanity. We know that now on earth is our chance to create heaven. We know that love crosses borders and prison walls, lives in queer families and disability justice organizers, thrives among trans and young people and working class elders. We extinguish this chalice with gratitude for our roots, the ancestors who taught us to be brave in creating a fair and loving world. The flame is now ours, as is their work. We side with love, we work for justice, and we carry the flame forward. Go in peace, go in joy, go in love, as we enjoy the music of Doug. Thank you. One more.
Me playing today is like the sun shining out there today, never ending. Thank you, I appreciate that. Before I start, I just wanted to say this probably at the beginning, but I didn't. It's like, I could have passed this around. You can see there's I created images on here. It's kind of like our language. I'm Bear Clan. So my first one here is that's my first step when I wake up in the morning. Before I put my foot down on the floor, I give thanks for myself. And also give thanks, well, generally for waking up, I suppose, or else I'm not going to give thanks. But that's before I set my foot on Mother Earth, I give thanks for her being here. Kind of what we're talking about a little bit with those treaties, that it's a treaty that even Mother Earth had commissioned for with us, that we walk gently on her, we take care of her, we don't dig too deep into her. So, but we tend to forget, and we want something a little bit further away. And so that's my first step. Then start walking through your course of your day, and in one of the holes is a step, and that's me. I call this crap happens. Happens all the time. Every day something not so pleasant could happen to you. Like for instance, I was coming here today and I stopped at Tim Hortons to get a coffee. I drink black coffee, and I opened up the coffee and I went, geez, it wasn't black. Now, if it was milk, I could probably drink it, but I don't like cream. I don't like the film that it puts into my mouth, so nor do I like sugar. So I took a sip of this and I went, ooh, geez. Like it was like, I think a 4x4, like 4 creams, 4 sugars. Now, I could have kept drinking it and go, all the way here, and I'm in a bad, foul mood. And no amount of you breathing into my flute would allow it to play because it had to come out of here first. So I make a choice. Either I can continuously coming and drink this, this bucket of sugar, and but I make a choice and I turn back and I correct it so I can continue on my day in a pleasant and more positive way, but only I could do that. Nobody could have done that for me. So I look at that, and that's kind of like the message of my flute, how I can control my day, because if I was playing that complaining all the way here, I'd been squeak, squawk, not with the stuff that's been coming out of here. So thank me for turning around and getting my black coffee. How much time do I have here? So anyways, that's how that is. And it's my life, my story of my life. Every day I do the same thing. Only I can create the positivity of my day. The sun shining. I just think this is great. Like yesterday and today, the most sun we've seen since November, basically. And so I think of that like, oh, it's coming. But the sun isn't really heating it up like I would like. But you know, that's also okay too. Like I understand why we have cold weather and stuff. And my flute doesn't like playing in the cold either. So I actually forgot it in my car last night, and I got up this morning going, oh, darn it. I went running outside, grabbed my flute, put it in there, and I warmed it up. I was rubbing it, trying to heat it up to let it know that it wasn't forgotten, which I did, but like, that's my story. That's the crap happens. So, and I polished it good, just like the silver covenant chain, polish it up so I have a better relationship with my flute and vice versa. Yeah, so I generally only use it in meditation, and that's so playing. I don't have a whole lot of songs. It's basically the same, but what I'm playing is how I'm feeling with the flute, and that's what comes out. So it tells me what finger to lift and what finger not to lift, and all that. And this flute, I also made it to fit me. Generally, the flutes have 6 holes in it, so they would be 3 and 3. I'm not a flute player, and so when I first got one, I started playing it, and I could not play it whatsoever. And the guy says, "Oh, I got what the problem is. You keep lifting this finger. You have to keep that one down." And I'm going, "No, I can't do that. Can we make one with 5 so I don't have to worry about that?" So we eliminated a hole in here so that I actually could play it, which, you know, and there's much more to this than that, but how I've learned where the sound comes from, that took me like 6 months to figure this out. So there's a whole story of this, which that's why I said how much time I have, but like we could be here till this evening and I'd still be talking about this. And I'm sure you don't want to do that because you want to enjoy a little bit of sunshine. So anyways, I'll just play a little bit more and then oh yeah, and the other thing is, I can only play it so long because I don't have so much air and so much lung. My lips also start getting numb, I'm feeling that, and there's a lot of air that goes through there, so there's a lot of capacity that has to happen, and I get tired. I could get lightheaded a little bit, and hopefully, you know, I don't bang my head on the piano. If I were to go down, that won't happen, but it's my sense of humor, I suppose, so bear with me. All right. How long have I got, did you say? No, that was serious. I was being serious that time. Like 1 more second?
Yeah.
I got 1 second, okay.